Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
I have a spinal condition that started when I was 16. It's called degenerative disc disease, but mine hit way earlier than usual. Some days I feel normal and can walk around campus like any other student. Other days the pain shoots through my back like lightning, and I need my walking cane or wheelchair to get around. The thing about invisible disabilities is that people assume you're fine if you look fine. I'm 22, I dress normally, I laugh with friends, and most of the time you'd never know anything was wrong. But inside my spine is crumbling. 3 herniated discs, bone spurs, and nerve damage that makes some mornings feel like someone's stabbing me with hot knives. I started college 2 years ago, and for the most part, professors and students have been understanding. I registered with a disability office, got my accommodations sorted out, and thought everything would go smoothly. I was wrong. Professor Johnson taught advanced biology, a required course for my pre-med track. From day one, he seemed to have it out for me. The first time I walked into class using my cane, he stared at me like I was putting on some kind of show. He made a comment about my interesting accessory, his voice dripping with sarcasm. I told him it was a mobility aid registered with disability services. He told me to try not to let it distract other students. That should have been my first warning sign. Over the next few weeks, things got worse. On days when I felt good enough to walk without my cane, he'd make snide remarks about my miraculous recovery. When I did use my mobility aids, he'd roll his eyes or make comments about young people these days. The other students started noticing too. Some gave me sympathetic looks, while others seemed to buy into his skepticism. The breaking point came during a particularly bad flare-up week. I've been using my wheelchair more often because standing for long periods was excruciating. I rolled into his classroom on a Tuesday morning already dreading what was coming. He started the lecture normally, but I could feel his eyes on me throughout the class. About halfway through, he stopped mid-sentence and turned to face me directly. He told the entire room that he had something to address. The class fell silent when he launched into a speech about how concerning it was to see young people taking advantage of systems meant to help those who really needed it. My face burned with embarrassment when 30 pairs of eyes turned to stare at me. He continued saying that, in his day, people didn't give up so easily when faced with minor discomfort. Several students shifted uncomfortably in their seats, but no one spoke up. Then came the moment that pushed me over the edge. He looked directly at me with a smug smile and loudly suggested that maybe I just needed attention. The way he said it made it sound like a joke, but his tone was cruel and mocking. The classroom was dead silent. I could hear my heart pounding in my ears. For a moment, I considered just leaving, dropping the class, maybe even dropping out entirely. But then something inside me snapped. Without saying a word, I pulled out my phone and opened my medical imaging app. My doctor had given me access to all my scans and test results, so I could track my condition. I connected my phone to the classroom projector that he'd been using for his presentation. The room filled with the blue glow of my MRI scan. There it was for everyone to see, my spine looking like a Jenga tower that someone had been pulling blocks from. Herniated discs bulging into my spinal cord, bone spurs jutting out at unnatural angles, areas where the cartilage had completely worn away. I turned to face Professor Johnson, my voice steady despite the rage boiling inside me. I told him that there was his attention, pointing at the screen. Then I asked if he'd like me to email the scans to him too, along with the reports from my 3 different specialists. The silence in that room was deafening. Professor Johnson's face had gone completely white. He opened his mouth like he was going to say something, then closed it again. Some of my classmates gasped when they saw the scans. Others looked horrified at how their professor had been treating me. I disconnected my phone from the projector and gathered my things. I told the class that this was what an invisible disability looked like, and that they should remember this moment before they judged someone else. Then I rolled out of the classroom with my head held high. Word spread quickly around campus. By the end of the week, Professor Johnson had been called into meetings with the department head and the Disability Services Office. Several students who witnessed the incident had filed complaints on my behalf. He never mentioned my disability again for the rest of the semester. In fact, he barely looked at me at all. When he did have to interact with me, he was overly polite and professional, like he was afraid I might sue him, which honestly I probably could have. During our final class, he made a point to announce to everyone that accommodations for disabilities were important and that the university took them seriously. It was clearly a scripted statement that someone had made him memorize, but hearing him say it felt like a small victory. I got an A in his class. Whether it was because I earned it or because he was too scared to grade me unfairly, I'll never know. But I didn't care. Background: I'm 34 and have 2 kids. My brother and his wife have 3 boys. For the past 6 years, we've been invited to every single one of their kids' birthday parties. And I mean every single one. 3 kids, 3 parties a year. That's 9 parties annually that I've been faithfully attending with gifts in hand. I used to love picking out presents for my nephews. I'd spend time thinking about what each boy would like, sometimes spending $50 to $70 per gift because I wanted to be the cool aunt. My kids and I would wrap them nicely, write thoughtful cards, and show up ready to celebrate. But here's where it gets frustrating. In all those years, when my kids had their birthdays, my brother and his wife would either skip the party entirely or show up empty-handed. Not even a card. Not even a happy birthday text. Nothing. My daughter had her 7th birthday party 2 months ago, and they came for exactly 30 minutes, ate cake, and left without even saying happy birthday to her. She noticed. Kids always notice. The breaking point came last month at my son's 9th birthday. All the other relatives brought gifts or at least cards. My brother's family, they walked in, my brother grabbed a beer from my fridge, and his wife immediately started talking to my mom about her own problems. When we were cutting the cake, she was on her phone the entire time. My son kept looking over at his cousins, probably wondering why they weren't excited for his special day like he always was for theirs. After everyone left, my son asked me why his uncle and aunt don't like his parties. I didn't know what to say. So when the invitation came for my youngest nephew's 6th birthday last weekend, I made a decision. We'd still go because I love my nephews, but I wasn't bringing a gift. I figured if they couldn't be bothered to acknowledge my kids' birthdays, why should I keep going above and beyond for theirs? The party was at one of those indoor playground places. When we arrived, my sister-in-law was standing near the entrance with my brother, greeting everyone. She asked me where the gift was, and I told her we didn't bring one today. She looked confused, like I'd spoken a foreign language. She asked what I meant, and I explained that we didn't bring a gift, but we were here to celebrate with everyone. Her face changed completely. She got this tight smile and walked away without another word. My brother didn't say anything, but I could tell he was annoyed. The party went fine. My kids played with their cousins, we ate pizza, sang happy birthday. But I noticed my sister-in-law kept giving me dirty looks across the room. At one point, I overheard her talking to another mom about how rude it was for people to come to a child's birthday party without a gift. The other mom suggested maybe we had forgotten, but my sister-in-law made it clear that I had said I didn't bring one on purpose. She told the other mom that some people have no class. I wanted to walk over and remind her about all the times she'd shown up empty-handed to my kids' parties, but I kept my mouth shut for the sake of keeping peace. We left after about 2 hours. My kids had fun, the birthday boy seemed happy. The next morning my phone started buzzing with texts. But here's the kicker. They weren't even from my brother or his wife. They were from my parents. My mom texted me saying she heard what I did at the party and that it was very inappropriate. I asked her what exactly I had done that was inappropriate. She said I didn't bring a gift for my nephew and that it was embarrassing for our whole family. I reminded her that I brought gifts to every single party for 6 years and asked when was the last time my brother and his wife brought anything for my kids. She said that was different and that I was being petty and punishing children for adult problems. My dad chimed in, agreeing with my mother and telling me I needed to apologize and maybe send a gift now. 6 years of my kids being ignored on their birthdays, and now suddenly I'm the problem. I reminded my dad about my son asking why his uncle and aunt don't like his parties, and about my daughter crying because she thought her cousins didn't care about her birthday. I asked where this energy was when my kids were being hurt. He said that wasn't the same thing. I asked how it wasn't the same thing, explaining that they attended maybe half of my kids' parties over the years and never brought anything, not even cards. My mom told me I was the adult and should be setting a good example. That's when I realized something. My brother or his wife had called my parents to complain about me not bringing a gift. They'd actually picked up the phone to tattle on me like we were children. But in all the years of them ignoring my kids' birthdays, no one had said a word. I laid it all out for them in my response. I told them that for 6 years, I'd spent hundreds of dollars on gifts for their kids. For 6 years, they'd shown up to my kids' parties either empty-handed or not at all. My kids had been hurt and disappointed repeatedly. But the moment I stopped bringing gifts, suddenly I was the villain. My mom said I was being dramatic. I told her no, I was being treated exactly how I'd been treating them. And apparently none of them liked how that felt. The texts kept coming throughout the day. My brother finally reached out, but not to apologize or explain. He just said I'd embarrassed his wife and that I should know better. I told him I was sorry she was upset, but I wasn't sorry for what I did. He said it was a kid's birthday party and that you bring a gift because that's how it works. I asked him if that was really how it worked, because I must have missed that rule when he came to my kids' parties. He said that was different, but when I asked how, he never answered. The whole situation has made me see my family clearly for the first time. For years, I thought I was being a good sister and aunt by consistently showing up with thoughtful gifts. But I was actually enabling a very one-sided relationship where my kids and I gave everything and got nothing in return. What really gets me is that no one ever called them out for their behavior. No one ever told them they were being rude for not acknowledging my kids' birthdays. No one ever suggested they were setting a bad example. But the moment I stopped being their personal ATM, suddenly I became the family villain. My kids, meanwhile, don't seem bothered by any of this. They had fun at the party, they love their cousins, and they don't understand all the adult drama happening behind the scenes, which is exactly how it should be. I'm not planning to apologize or send a belated gift. I've spent enough money and emotional energy on people who clearly don't value what I bring to the table. From now on, I'll show up to family events because I want to maintain relationships with my nephews. But the days of me going above and beyond for people who can't even manage basic courtesy are over. 3 days after all the drama, I got a text from my sister-in-law asking if I wanted to go in on an expensive group gift for my mom's upcoming birthday. I didn't even respond. I'm a federal agent and I've dealt with all kinds of criminals in my 15 years on the job. Drug dealers, white-collar fraudsters, even some dangerous fugitives. But nothing prepared me for what happened at the toy store last Saturday. My daughter had been saving up her allowance for months to buy this specific collectible figure from her favorite anime series. She's 12 and really into this stuff. The toy was part of a limited release and we've been checking different stores for weeks. We found one store that still had it in stock, so we drove 40 minutes across town on my day off. We walked into the store together, but I told her to go ahead and find the toy while I grabbed a few other things we needed. She was so excited, practically bouncing when she headed to the toy section. I was maybe 3 aisles away, looking at some household items, when I heard this commotion. At first it was just raised voices, so I didn't think much of it. But then I heard my daughter cry out, and something in her voice made my blood run cold. I dropped what I was holding and rushed toward the sound. What I saw when I rounded the corner made my jaw drop. This middle-aged woman, in an expensive-looking jacket, had grabbed my daughter by her ponytail and was yanking on it while trying to pry a toy box out of her hands. The woman demanded that my daughter give her the toy right now, claiming her son needed it more. My daughter protested that she had gotten it first and begged the woman to let go of her. The woman called my daughter a little brat who didn't deserve nice things and gave another hard yank on her hair. That's when I saw red. My training kicked in before my emotions could take over completely. I announced loudly that I was with the Federal Bureau of Investigation and ordered the woman to release the child immediately. I had my badge out and my voice carried that authority I developed over years of dealing with suspects. The woman looked up at me, still gripping my daughter's hair. She told me to mind my own business and accused my daughter of being a thief who stole her son's toy. I told her that I was ordering her to release my daughter right now or she'd be facing assault charges on a minor. She asked if my daughter was really mine, then accused both of us of lying about me being FBI. Wrong move, lady. I reached for my handcuffs while keeping my badge visible. I told her she was under arrest for assault on a minor and began reading her rights. She protested that she couldn't be arrested because she hadn't done anything wrong, claiming my daughter had taken the last toy. She let go of my daughter's hair but started backing away from me. By now, we'd attracted quite a crowd, and I could see store employees rushing over. My daughter explained to me that the woman had grabbed her out of nowhere while she was holding the toy and started pulling her hair. The store manager appeared and immediately started apologizing, but I was focused on the woman who was still protesting her innocence. The woman declared the whole situation ridiculous and demanded to speak to my supervisor. I told her that I was a federal agent and didn't have a supervisor standing around in toy stores. I explained that she had physically assaulted my child over a toy and now she was going to face the results. I moved to restrain her and she actually tried to run. In a toy store, wearing heels, she made it about 10 feet before tripping over a display of stuffed animals and going down hard. The entire store watched when I walked over and cuffed her while she was tangled up in teddy bears. She screamed about police brutality and threatened to sue everyone. I told her that she had assaulted a 12-year-old over a $20 toy, and the only person who was going to be facing legal problems was her. The local police arrived within minutes. My colleague who responded was someone I'd worked with before on joint cases, so he knew me well. He asked what we had, and I explained it was assault on a minor, attempted theft, and resisting arrest. I mentioned that the whole thing was probably on their security cameras. The store manager confirmed they had everything on video. When they loaded the woman into the police car, she was still screaming about how unfair it all was and demanding to speak to my supervisor. My daughter was pretty shaken up, but she was more concerned about her toy getting damaged in the scuffle. Luckily, it was fine. The store manager insisted on giving her a discount and threw in some extra items to apologize for what happened in their store. When we walked to our car, my daughter asked if this was what I did at work every day. I told her that sometimes it was, but not usually in toy stores. The woman was charged with assault, attempted theft, and child endangerment. She tried to claim she was just trying to get a toy for her son, but the security footage clearly showed her grabbing my daughter first and then going for the toy. Her lawyer tried to argue that I'd exceeded my authority, but federal agents are sworn law enforcement officers 24/7, and I'd followed proper procedure. She ended up pleading guilty to avoid jail time. She also had to write a letter of apology to my daughter, though it was pretty obviously written by her lawyer. I'm an artist trying to make ends meet while going through the legal process of adopting my two younger siblings. Our parents passed away in a car accident 2 years ago, and since I'm the only family they have left, I've been fighting through courts and social services to become their legal guardian. The whole process is expensive: lawyer fees, court costs, home inspections, you name it. That's why I started selling my paintings on my online shop. Every sale helps pay for the adoption process and keeps food on the table. My art isn't anything fancy. I mostly do landscape paintings and some abstract pieces. They're reasonably priced because I know most people can't afford to spend hundreds on art. I've built up a small following over the past year, and while I'm not making bank, it's enough to survive. So yesterday I get this message from someone claiming to be an influencer. She had a decent number of followers, so I thought maybe this could be a real opportunity. She started by saying she absolutely loved my paintings and found my work inspiring. She wanted to feature one of my pieces on her page. I thanked her and asked which piece she was interested in. Then came the first red flag. She said she was hoping I could send her one for free because she had over 50,000 followers who would see it. She talked about all the exposure I would get from her featuring my work. I should have ended the conversation right there, but I tried to be polite. I told her I appreciated the interest but didn't do free work. I offered her a 15% discount for collaborations if she wanted to purchase something. She said I didn't understand and that she needed it completely free. Not only that, but she also wanted me to pay for overnight shipping because she couldn't risk it getting damaged with regular shipping. She also mentioned needing it by August 30th. I explained that I couldn't afford to give away free paintings and pay for shipping since my art was how I made my living. Then she looked at my latest piece and said it was kinda small. She asked if I could paint a bigger version since she needed it to look good in photos. She reminded me that I had until August 30th to get it done and shipped. At this point, I was getting annoyed, but it was about to get so much worse. I told her that I wasn't going to paint a free custom piece and pay to ship it. I said if she was interested in purchasing something, she should let me know. She completely flipped and said I was making a huge mistake. She claimed this was the opportunity of a lifetime and asked if I knew how many artists would kill for this exposure. I simply replied that exposure doesn't pay my bills. Then she came up with an even more ridiculous proposal. She suggested we could pretend she paid full price for the painting, so it would look like she was supporting me financially. She said this would actually help my cause with adopting my siblings because her followers would think she was helping me, and they'd be encouraged to buy from me too. She claimed she'd be doing me a favor by lying about paying. She wanted me to help her fake being supportive while she got free art. I told her absolutely not, and that I wasn't interested in any arrangement that involved deception. She said I had just lost the best opportunity I'd ever get and threatened to report my shop for scamming customers. I asked her what exactly she would report me for since I hadn't scammed anyone. She said she'd find something and claimed I was clearly unprofessional and didn't deserve to have a business. I told her we were done and wished her good luck with her content. But she sent one final message that made me laugh out loud. She said she was putting a curse on me and my pathetic little art business. She wrote some butchered Latin that was supposed to mean no one would ever buy my paintings again. She said I'd regret my decision. I had to look up her Latin curse and it was completely wrong. It was like she put your bad art will never sell into an online translator and called it ancient magic. The whole thing was so ridiculous that I screenshot the entire conversation and posted it on my social media, explaining what happened. The response was incredible. People were sharing it everywhere, calling out this kind of entitled behavior. Artists from all over started following my account and sharing their own horror stories about dealing with people who wanted free work. Within 24 hours, I had sold more paintings than I usually sell in a month. Real customers paying real money. When I finally got my own one-bedroom apartment in London after years of house shares, I was so proud. It wasn't huge, but it was mine. The problem was, word got around the family pretty quickly that I had my own place, and suddenly I became the unofficial family hotel. It started small. A cousin needed a place to crash for one night. An aunt wanted somewhere to stay during a weekend trip. I didn't mind at first. Family is family, right? But then it became a regular thing, especially with one particular cousin. Let's call her Karen because honestly, the shoe fits. Karen has this 15-year-old son and they live up north. Every few months, she'd message me asking if they could stay for a weekend visit to London. The thing is, she never asked if it was convenient or offered to contribute anything. She just assumed I'd say yes and rearrange my entire life around their visit. Before my fiancé moved in with me, I had an escape route. Whenever Karen announced she was coming, I'd pack a bag and stay at my fiancé's place for the weekend. We actually enjoyed having extended sleepovers at his flat, so it felt like a small sacrifice. But my fiancé kept telling me I was being too soft. He would point out that she was taking advantage of me. He'd remind me that I paid rent on that place, and she got to use it for free whenever she wanted. I would defend her, saying it was just family and that she didn't have much money. He would shake his head and tell me that her financial situation didn't mean she could treat me like a free hotel service. The last time they stayed before my fiancé moved in, I really started to see what he meant. Karen and her son arrived on Friday evening and I'd ordered takeout for all of us. Cost me £40, which isn't nothing on my budget. When the food arrived, Karen barely looked up from her phone and just mumbled that she was starving. That was it. No thank you, no offer to contribute, nothing. They demolished most of the food, and I put the leftovers in the fridge thinking I'd have lunch sorted for the next day. Saturday morning I woke up to find half the leftovers gone. I took the remaining portion and heated it up for my breakfast. Karen walked into the kitchen just as I was sitting down to eat. She gave me this evil look and hissed that she was planning to have that for lunch. I was so shocked I didn't even know what to say. I stammered something about not realizing and told her there was plenty of other food in the kitchen. She just rolled her eyes and walked away with an attitude. That evening I suggested we go out for dinner since they were leaving the next morning. I picked a nice but not too expensive restaurant and we had a pleasant enough meal. When the bill came, I thought maybe Karen would offer to pay as a thank you gesture. Instead, I pushed the bill toward her with a hopeful smile. Karen pulled out her phone and opened the calculator app. She started adding up exactly what she and her son had ordered, down to the penny. She counted out the exact amount in cash and slid it across the table to me, announcing that was what they had eaten. I sat there staring at the remaining bill, which included my meal and the entire service charge. I ended up paying almost £30 on top of what she'd covered. But the real kicker came the next morning when they were packing to leave. I bought extra groceries thinking I'd use whatever was left over during the week. Karen was systematically packing everything into carrier bags. When I asked what she was doing, she told me they couldn't let the food go to waste. She took everything, half-eaten bags of crisps, bananas that would definitely be bruised by the time they got home, an open bottle of milk, cookies, muffins, even boxes of cereal that were only half full. I watched my entire week's worth of food disappear into her bags. She thanked me for having them and asked if they could come again the same time next month. After my fiancé moved in with me, Karen messaged asking when she could visit again. I'd finally grown a bit of a spine. I told her that now that my fiancé lived there too, we didn't have the space since it was only a one-bedroom flat. You'd think that would be the end of it, but Karen had other ideas. She sent back this elaborate plan about how she could sleep on the sofa and they'd move all my living room furniture to fit an air mattress for her son. She said it would be like camping and that they wouldn't be any trouble. My fiancé looked at the message and started typing immediately. He sent her a list of nearby hotels with reasonable rates and said he hoped she'd find something that worked for her. A few weeks later, my sister came to visit from Scotland. Her booking fell through at the last minute, so I offered her the sofa for the weekend. She was absolutely lovely about it. She brought me breakfast from my favorite cafe, bought beautiful flowers for the flat, and left a heartfelt thank you card when she left. 3 days after my sister left, guess who messaged me? Karen had heard that my sister got to stay on the sofa and wanted to know when she and her son could come visit. My fiancé didn't even hesitate. He sent the exact same list of hotels. Karen wasn't giving up though. She tried a different approach. She suggested that maybe it could be just her, leaving her son at home. She insisted she could sleep on the sofa with no problem at all. My fiancé looked at me with this amused expression and started typing. He sent her the hotel list again and told her to let him know if she needed any other recommendations for places to stay in London. Karen fired back that this was ridiculous. She ranted about how family should help family and that she couldn't believe we were making her pay for a hotel when we had a perfectly good sofa. My fiancé calmly replied that the sofa wasn't available for guests anymore and that the hotel list still stood. Karen got nastier and told us not to expect her to help us out if we ever needed anything. My fiancé just acknowledged her message and wished her a great day. 2 weeks later, Karen posted on social media about her amazing weekend getaway in London, complete with photos from an expensive hotel room and meals at restaurants I could never afford. Turns out she could definitely afford accommodation all along. Karen still sends passive-aggressive messages in our family group chat sometimes, but she hasn't asked to stay over again. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.